What's up, everybody? I'm Leo,
And I'm Josh.
and today we're going to be talking about the Saints Week One thrashing of the Packers. Uh, I can't lie. I figured that the Saints had a good chance of winning that game, but I just didn't see it going that. I guess out of respect, I didn't see it going that bad. For the Packers. Man, what did you see particularly that was impressive to you?
Well, I saw that allowed really settle. Um, there was he had ability to really just make every correct decision and not really focus on having to pull a team back from a lead and all the stuff that he's used to in Tampa. So I thought it was a very um, how do I say very good starting point for him to get going. And defensively, man, it was kind of what I expected. They just squeezed the life out of them with a cover two man scheme that Aaron Rodgers was very frustrated about post game. Because the only way to beat that is if you're able to run the ball against their front seven, and that just didn't happen. We just basically got them to quit on the run game pretty early on, and that plus Rodgers panicking and making two uncharacteristic decisions that led to turnovers kind of just ended the game pretty early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I agree, man. It was definitely that the defense was pretty dominant. Was definitely dominant. They held, one of the best quarterbacks of a generation to 3 points, But yeah, one thing I thought was interesting too, man, was the run game, man. For the Saints, it was a very balanced attack, you know. Uh, and what's the guy's name? What was the guy that was spelling Kamara? I forgot his name.
That's Tony Jones Jr. He's the replacement for Latavius.
Yeah, I thought he played a really solid game, man. Like there wasn't really a drop off from when I mean, obviously Kamara's Kamara, but I mean he definitely held his own, and I mean it just showed how dominant. Well, he's a good running back too, but it just kind of showed how dominant the line play was for the Saints in general, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the real impressive part is they lose their starting center the first drive and they don't miss a beat and they completely dominate. One of the things that I saw looking back and kind of thinking about the game was how they were able to implement a lot of the stuff that they used to with Ingram and Kamara back when Ingram was here,
yeah,
where
yeah,
they were running the two running backs in the same backfield, and it seemed to have more juice to it. When they were trying that stuff last year with Latavius, it just didn't seem like it had that same kind of juice because everything it was more of a Latavius is more of an I formation running back, kind of needs that downhill tilt to kind of get going. And I think having this guy as the complementary piece to Kamara, as long as they are comfortable with using him more than they did, because I think they probably ran Kamara a little too much in this game in terms of like dives and way too many. I like to think of it as boxing, so in this case, they did more of body shots and more. It was more of the dirty work that I'd rather see Tony Jones take than Kamara, since you paid him so much money and you kind of use him kind of all over the offense. But that's where I kind of see it offensively. Um, with defense, I think there really isn't a issue on this defense. Everything's extremely deep. The D line was able to pressure with four, which made everything easier. We've talked about that before. That's the key to defense. That allows you to play that two-man concept that just keeps everything in front of you and just kind of squeezes the life out of an offense. Is there anything else that you saw or any other comments that you wanted to make?
man. No. Oh yeah, well let's just talk about Jameis Winston for a second. I don't think we really hit on that. So Jameis had 5 touchdowns, only 150 yards, but I mean, I don't really like. To me, I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't really care about his lack of yards. You know what I mean? I guess
Right.
everybody else, particularly, Jameis doubters and people that, um, how do I say this? Like people who are, I guess, definitely don't believe in the Saints in general. They are kind of criticizing him for his lack of yards. But I mean, he played a very efficient game, and one thing that really stuck out to me was that, like, it wasn't the deep downfield throws that I guess we hadn't seen with Drew Brees in the past. It was more about how efficient he was in the red zone to me. Now I know that Sean Payton is obviously dialing up shit that is gonna work, but I mean at the same time, like he was throwing. I mean he was throwing perfect balls and while getting pressured and just all types of shit, man. So I thought that was the most impressive part. The fact that y'all didn't have to run the ball when you got in the red zone. Like it was still a balanced attack in the red zone. So what you think about that?
Right. Yeah, there was a composure about him that you hadn't seen previous years with Jameis. And I think what really settled him in, and it's kind of cliche, but I think it was when he took that first hit. He had a couple of runs early on where, because he ended up with around 30, between 30 and 40 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
He was like 37 or so. But I think he come up and allowed him kind of settle in the game. And you've heard it with other players that they aren't really back and used to playing until they get hit that first time. And I think he kind of used that to settle in. He seems like that would be modus operandi for Jameis Winston. It's like you said, he just did everything exactly how Sean asked him to. Didn't do anything that would have put the ball in risk. He didn't need to. So there'll be games where he'll have to throw more, and eventually we'll get there. We shouldn't have to be there in the next couple of weeks, but I think it's a good starting point to kind of build up throughout the year with.
Yeah. I mean, the looming thing that is also there is that Callaway. What's the number one? The receiver. His name is Callaway, right? So
Yeah, Marquez Callaway.
Callaway. It seems like because of because of Jameis's arm strength, we'll see different. We'll see Harris kind of in a different role now, in a way that we didn't see him previously. And then what else? So between that, and then what I was moving forward to is getting Michael Thomas back. You know what I mean?
Correct,
So
correct, yeah.
eventually he will be asked to throw the ball more, and I mean hopefully by those times where it really matters, like Mike Thomas will be back, so he'll be in a good position to really to throw the ball more. And I think one thing I think is interesting too is that we'll probably see, we'll be able to see the Saints offense kind of in just a new light that we haven't seen in a while because of, just simply because, shit, there's a quarterback that could really stress pretty much, more areas of the field than Drew Brees could, particularly like in the last 2 years late in the season, So I think that'll be good, man. So you have any other thoughts about week one, man?
Yeah, the only other things is they avoided any major injuries that are, and I see major injuries as guys that'll not be able to come back this year. They lost Lattimore to a thumb. He came back and played. They lost Davenport to a strained back. They thought it was going to be worse. Luckily, it wasn't. McCoy, like I said before, had a calf strain. All these guys are kind of week to week, but nothing seems to be more of a extended period. And plus, each of these spots, like they just signed to replace for McCoy, they just recently signed Austin Ryder, I think his name is. He was a starting center for the Chiefs the last 2 years. So that's not too shabby in terms of replacement talent. I just think they're in a good place right now as a team, and they have ability to continue this with the depth that they've developed as an organization. Especially the last quick thing was, I believe they had 15 players that were undrafted free agents that were that either were active in the game or on the roster for the game, which is a pretty high number for a quality football team, which just shows that they're able to get cheap depth. That's kind of what's going to sustain them through some of these nicks and injuries throughout the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So definitely a good win. We got Carolina up next week, which I think should be a win, but I guess we'll talk about that in another video, man. So week one, good win, definitely a good starting point for the rest of the year.
Right, yeah, definitely. And I'm looking forward to see what they can do against Carolina, and we'll give you all, like you said, guys, a peek at that a little bit in a day or so before the game.
Right, right. All right, y'all. Peace.
All right, y'all take care.